Hey, TwoSun Tuesday once again, and this one is quite interesting. And I will say up front, because there has been somebody asking around in the community for quite a while, I'm not interested in selling this guy. I only have one. There wasn't a vast majority or a large amount of them made, and I'm not particularly looking to get rid of it. So there we go, just saving that question or two. This is the TS262. Full carbon fiber design with a little bit of an inlaid steel lock bar there. This has an M390 blade to it, and because it's a Tepe design, it's got a number on it. Mine is number 86, as we can see here. Usually I get them a little bit lower in numbers due to when I purchase knives, but yeah, for the most part, I was trying to get this for a really good price on eBay, and I did end up finally getting it at exactly $100. But there we go. This thing, sheep's foot blade, really thick blade stock thickness on this. It's 4 millimeters. I think maybe a little bit overkill, but yeah, I suppose that's debatable depending on who you're actually asking there. We got a finger choil that actually ends up working out for me. Not something that I would want to do for a lot of really crazy heavy cutting, because I could still push my finger forward a little bit into the blade, but still works out quite a bit better than most others do. This thing is feather light, and we're talking like 3.62 ounces or 103 grams. And because this has basically a 3.32-inch blade from basically the top of the handle scales out to the tip there, it's just a little bit under an ounce an inch for those measurements, which is fairly impressive because we have such a thick blade stock going on here. This one is M390 blade steel rather than D2 that most knives these days from TwoSun are doing or dealing with here. Oh yeah, as far as the blade length here, 3.32 inches, as I said, that's 84.4 millimeters there. And of course, you're going to lose probably a third of an inch or something like that due to that finger choil. So again, like quite a bit like this one that we take a look at last week, we do have about in effect around a 3-inch blade going on here. But yeah, there's a lot of interesting things going on here. I don't know necessarily if all of them don't quite follow that twill pattern absolutely perfectly. You can see there's a little bit of a differences going on there and then there and there. I actually kind of prefer that because it doesn't make it look like that absolutely perfect thin veneer that a lot of companies did, mostly a few years in the past or whatever, as the laminate on top of G10 does make it look like, yeah, it's a little bit more authentic, and it very much is. So yeah, very feather light sort of thing going on here. The blade geometry, despite it being a 4 millimeter blade stock thickness, still really comes down to very thin behind the edge. So this thing can do a lot of good slicey things, but depending on exactly how slicey you're looking for, something like some thicker cardboard or something like that, it is possible that it can get a little bit bound up there. But that's kind of the price you end up paying for generally trying to slice through some thicker cardboard on pretty much anything thicker than like a 3 millimeter blade stock thickness anyway. But yeah, it's a sheep's foot, and you can also quite easily kind of get your index finger out there for doing a lot or getting a lot of power down to the tip if you're doing some utility cuts, especially down onto a surface or something like that. Really nice and comfortable in the hand, especially in that Gorilla hammer grip there. As far as the jimping going on there, I think it's pretty much just designed for the front flipper, not necessarily to give you more traction up here. Something that I didn't mention earlier is this thing does have a crown spine. It's not an Italian knife, but hey, it's not just exclusive to the Italians. They just tend to like to do that on basically everything because they can. But still, works out really nice here. Don't really have any problems or qualms with any of that. And that hole there, you can easily do a reverse flick with it. And a slow roll open. So, something that I will say isn't exactly my favorite is basically when the detent engages and gets over the detent ramp on this guy. Something that I have talked about in a video that I'm not sure is up at this point, but something that I did kind of complain a bit with the Max Ace Black Mirror, and that is well, the detent starts to engage with the blade here and has a detent ramp. So by the time you get over it, this one isn't quite as bad, but it's still almost close to that 90-degree kind of mark there. And that's fine for the people who really do like to let a blade fully drop before finishing that. And because this thing has such a finger choil in there, it's not all that bad, but it still can, kind of startle somebody if they're not particularly ready for it. For me, usually with liner locks, I do like to just break it out of that lock a little bit and finish it. And this one seems to be a little bit awkward with that, because right where I want to let go of that, that's when the blade ramp comes into the picture there. So not exactly my favorite implementation of the whole detent on clothes and stuff like that. Not a deal breaker, like I said, you can easily get used to that. Also, it really depends on where your finger is, especially your middle finger when you're disengaging that. As you've seen a couple of times, I've had a finger kind of affect that. So that's also, it just takes a little bit more getting used to, I suppose, than a lot of other knives. But that's all right. It's got enough good values and design principles and everything like that to end up doing a pretty good job and making you want to get used to it. Pocket clip works out pretty well. Not super imposing, especially for the thickness of the handle and all that sort of stuff. And then there we go. That's basically what it's going to look like in your pocket. So it's got a little nub there, maybe like 1/3 of an inch sticking up or something like that. Not a whole huge amount. We got a large lanyard hole there. Generally, I would prefer to have kind of the hidden one there. But at least this one does go through both sides of the carbon fiber and is surrounded by that backspacer there. So a whole lot of nice, smooth material. It's not going to rough up your paracord or leather or whatever else that you actually make your lanyard out of, if, of course, you actually do that. You can thumb flick the blade open. To me, that's not exactly the most comfortable, but still very, very possible to do. Yeah, this thing is just quite interesting. So let's see. Let's go ahead and get through some of the rest of these measurements here. I did mention 4mm blade stock thickness, super thick, maybe a little bit thicker than was necessary, but whatever. And then 3.62 ounces or 103 grams to a 3.32 inch blade. Also 84.4 millimeters. And as far as the handle thickness, we got 0.52, so just a touch thicker than a Spyderco PM2. This thing looks like it has just a little tiny bit of the heel that you can access, and I can access it with my fingernail, but it's not something that's worrying me about getting that to, getting that snaggletooth kind of bite where the blade can actually get you while the knife is closed, something that you really don't want. Something that would also be minimized even more if this was a thinner blade stock between 3.8, which is kind of standard for TwoSun, and 3.5, which I think is probably kind of the happy medium for a lot of that. But still, there we go. And also we have jimping there on the back. makes that really, really comfortable if you're going to use a reverse hammer grip for it. It is a sheep's foot, so you can do a little bit of the pokey, but it's not anywhere near as aggressive as a standard Warncliffe or a clip point is going to be. So, you know, you can definitely do some sort of things with it, but maybe not quite exactly the epitome of self-defense as compared to some other blade shapes and stuff like that. But there we go. This was a pretty interesting one. Like I said, I think they only kind of did one particular run of this thing. I don't know how many were actually produced. My guess is either 250 or 500. I honestly don't know. 500 probably seems like it might be a little bit large for some of the runs of some knives that they've done. So I don't know. I'd say probably 250 or 300 for this particular run. It seems like it probably makes sense. But yeah, like I said, I haven't seen them do another run of these guys. Doesn't mean that it won't happen at some point. But it is what it is there. These are flat scales. They don't really have any contouring to them. They do have, of course, rounded over edges and stuff like that to make it super nice and comfortable. But yeah, how about if we go ahead and do some blade size comparisons? Since I've been doing Spyderco first, let's continue that trend with the PM2 and the Endura 4. And then follow that up with some Benchmads. Here's the standard grip tilion. There's my 940. There we go. There's the bug out. So it puts the scales up correctly. And here we go. We got the Wrap Model 1, which is a little bit larger. This is probably like a Wrap Model 1.5 in size. It's definitely going to be larger than the 2. So there's that. How about the Civivi Elementum? Sure. There we go. Much smaller, but it is another relatively popular knife these days. So there we go. There's basically everything I wanted to cover. The only thing that really kind of irritated me a bit was the very late detent engagement and getting over the ramp. But basically everything else about it tends to just work. It's a pretty nice, good sheep's foot design that you can choke up on pretty comfortably and get a decent amount of power going on to it. So there we are. That seems to be everything that I wanted to cover with the standard review. But as always, we're going to go ahead and take a look on the inside of this. So let's go ahead and do that. T8 hardware, as is basically the case on basically all TwoSuns, except for very, very few of them where a designer actually requested a different size. That happened a little bit more in the slip joints that they've done than some others, but that's okay. There's the pivot collar for this guy. There we are. And yeah, we can see while he's closed, we do have a internal blade stop pin. So we don't really have much in the way of worrying about blade wrap or anything going on there. And we do, at least on one side here, have steel as far as for the blade stop there, which is a little bit of an improvement over. Let's see if I can't pull this guy out. Where is? Yeah, I'll pull out the fancier version of it. That was one drawer down. There we go. The TS262, which is another full carbon fiber bladed knife with M390 with inset liner lock here. However, we just have the bearing races on this one, and then the carved out things are like this on both sides, which can lead to, over time, from doing a lot of flicking the blade open, kind of getting that to be just a little bit sloppy. The carbon fiber one's not quite as bad as far as how easy it is to wear it out than the micarta budget version that they came out with in very limited numbers a little while back. This one I can definitely see kind of getting super sloppy over time, especially because this is using their older kind of funky burlap micarta rather than the newer, more durable stuff. But yeah, overall, there we go. We do have that reinforcement there, which is definitely a welcome addition for longevity of the blade there. And then we have 3 screws that are attaching the liner onto here. As it's steel, it doesn't need a lock bar insert or anything like that, or over travel stop. Just a very nice, simple knife and design, but one that's still very effective for doing all of your sheep's footy kind of tasks. These screws actually are different lengths, so I want to actually make sure I get the right one in there. A lot of times they are all the same length, the screws for putting something together. However, as I just said, yep, this one is just a little tiny bit different, and the one for the clip is a little bit longer. But yeah, super easy to pop them open, deal with all of that. So there we go. There's a TS262. This was another one from Tepe Designs. That was pretty interesting, but unfortunately, like I said, I don't think there was a vast amount of them made, which means that some people who were kind of looking for these guys are probably going to have a little bit of a difficult time trying to find them, or at least people like me who don't want to let them go because they enjoy them, and then they also know that if they do let them go, they're probably not going to find another one to replace it with. Certainly something that I've been running into with the TS262 Integral, something that I've wanted for a very long time, but at this point, I don't really think I'm going to be able to get it. I've got several of the G10 variants, and well, that's good enough, I suppose. It's nothing that really keeps me awake at night, but still something that I would love to actually get my hands on one of these days. But anyway, that's everything I got to say here on the TS262. So, as always, I appreciate y'all for watching, and have yourself a wonderful rest of your day, yo. Think about subscribing, please. I would like that.